Rise and fall of French colonial empire. France led the world in exploration and empire building for centuries, influencing economies, cultures, and continents much beyond Europe. From the vast lands of West Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific to the sugar plantations of the Caribbean, the French colonial empire grew to become one of the biggest and most powerful empires in history. It tells a tale of aspiration, ingenuity, exploitation, and finally, downfall. The earliest days of the empire were during the era of exploration, when European nations fought for resources and trade routes abroad. France made inroads in the Americas, Africa, and Asia, driven by economic opportunities, religious missions, and national glory. Along with trade, religion, and military might, French culture, language, and legal systems were exported. However, as the empire grew, it faced increasing obstacles, including opposition from native populations, rivalry from other European nations, internal political unrest, and shifting worldviews. France's capacity to project power abroad was altered by the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, and the two World Wars. Nationalist movements in Asia and Africa compelled France to give up its colonies by the middle of the 20th century. Lessons about ambition, flexibility, and the ultimate frailty of world dominance can be learned from the history of the French colonial empire. Its ascent and decline demonstrate imperialism's genius and inconsistencies, creating a legacy that still influences the contemporary globe. Let's watch. 1. The seeds of empire and early ventures. During the age of exploration in the 16th century, France started to pursue colonial goals. French explorers founded early settlements in the Americas, particularly Canada, New France, and the Caribbean islands, including Saint-Domingue, modern-day Haiti, driven by trade, religion, and rivalry with Spain and Portugal. Fur, sugar, and other resources were sought for by the French, who frequently formed partnerships with native populations to improve their standing. Despite their modest size and vulnerability, these early colonies set the stage for eventual growth. The foundation for a culturally unified empire was laid by the introduction of French culture, language, and Catholicism through missions and settlements. 2. Growth in the Caribbean and Americas. French dominance in the Americas was consolidated in the 17th and 18th centuries. By building settlements and trading networks that linked French possessions to Europe, New France spread along the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, and the Mississippi Valley. Through the production of sugar, coffee, and other cash crops, French possessions in the Caribbean, such as Saint-Domingue, rose to prominence. These colonies, which were dependent on African slave labor, brought France great prosperity, but also planted the seeds for future societal unrest. In order to preserve power, French colonial authorities frequently mediated disputes between indigenous groups or exploited rivalries by combining military might with alliances and treaties. 3. Growth in Asia and Africa. France sought colonies in Asia and Africa in addition to the Americas. French towns and commercial ports appeared along the coast of West Africa starting in the 17th century, giving the transatlantic commerce access to gold, ivory, and slave labor. French influence extended to India, Indochina, and the islands of the Indian Ocean in Asia. French military expeditions, traders, and missionaries pursued both business prospects and religious conversion. 4. Culture, administration, and the civilizing mission. The mission civilizatrice concept, which held that France had a responsibility to impart its culture, language, and system of government to conquered peoples, was a defining characteristic of the French Empire. Law, architecture, education, and religion were all instruments of control and unification. Each region had its own colonial administration. France exerted direct administration in other regions, such as Algeria and Indochina, establishing French bureaucracies, schools, and legal systems. Indirect rule in Africa frequently depended on pre-existing local authorities under French supervision. A long-lasting legacy was produced by the spread of French language and culture. Many portions of Africa and the Caribbean still speak French as their first tongue. However, the civilizing mission often concealed repression, exploitation, and forced labor, underscoring the conflict between spiritual aspirations and pragmatic reality. 5. Wars, conflicts, and difficulties. There were ongoing internal and external threats to the French colonial empire. Wars in North America, the Caribbean, and India were sparked by rivalry with Britain, Spain, and the Netherlands. These conflicts frequently resulted in territorial loss and strategic realignment. Internal difficulties included African slave uprisings in the Caribbean, most notably the Haitian Revolution 1791 to 1804, which put an end to French rule over Saint-Domingue. Indigenous opposition to taxes, forced labor, and cultural imposition frequently put French power to the test in Africa and Asia. The Napoleonic Wars revealed weaknesses and interfered with colonial governance. Despite France's aspirations to rule the world, colonial governance demanded a significant amount of resources, and wars in Europe and abroad made it difficult for France to keep control. 6. The end of empire and decolonization. French colonial dominance began to wane in the 20th century. France was militarily and economically devastated by World Wars I and II, and anti-colonial sentiment rose around the world. Independence was advocated by nationalist movements in sub-Saharan Africa, Algeria, Morocco, and Vietnam. The bloody First Indochina War, 1946 to 1954, and the Algerian War of Independence, 1954 to 1962, marked the end of France's ability to hold on to foreign lands. The French colonial empire came to an end in the late 20th century when the majority of French colonies gained their independence. Decolonization, according to contemporary historians, was the consequence of worldwide ideological changes, as well as military loss. Anti-imperialism, human rights, and self-determination changed the global order. 7. The French colonial empire's legacy. The French colonial empire left a significant impact despite its fall. Politically, it had an impact on the legal frameworks, governmental systems, and educational establishments of former colonies. French literature, art, food, and language continue to influence communities in Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. In terms of the economy, colonial infrastructure, roads, ports, and railroads facilitated urban growth and trade, but frequently at the price of local sovereignty. Deep social injustices and intricate cultural dynamics that still exist today were brought about by the empire's policies. A historical lesson about the potential and constraints of imperial authority can be learned from the emergence and fall of the French colonial empire. It illustrates how ambition, adaptation, exploitation, and resistance interact. Even though the empire is no longer in existence, its impact may still be seen in politics, culture, and identity around the world. The French colonial empire left behind a complicated legacy. It combines economic growth, language impact, cultural enrichment, and persistent inequity. Its history serves as a reminder that resistance, adaptability, and worldwide change can affect empires of any size or sophistication. Understanding the French colonial empire's emergence and fall is a reflection on power, ambition, and the long-lasting effects of human effort on the planet, rather than just a study of conquest and governance. Let us know in the comments what you think about the rise and fall of French colonial empire, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more captivating content on our YouTube channel.